proud to be black folks, somebody would have hit the switch already.
That's right.
Man, this is work.
That's right.
This is work. We got to undo. We're undoing 500 years of infiltration, of oppression. And you might say, woo, 500 years. But that ain't nothing when you realize that you're millions of years old. 500 years ain't nothing but a blink. This is a commercial. No, I hold my mouth as a commercial and I hit it. We'll be right back after these messages. What you gonna do then? Then this next show gonna be cable. We through. We about to put a movie on. You know what I'm saying? So that's the attitude. So we walk around here, Bible look crazy. No people from Temple acting out look crazy. We not crazy, man. We committed. We happy. We're celebrating. We're celebrating and we know who we are. So we're celebrating who we are. That's something to celebrate. Yeah. We don't wait like brother was saying in Dallas, talking about white folks this way, but that's irrelevant. You understand? What's relevant right now is that we embrace who we are. That's what's relevant right now. We don't let nobody else define us but who? Us. We have a school, the Uhuru Academy. You can visit us at www.uhuruacademy.com, or you can visit me or my wife tonight, or Brother Bomani tonight. We have our own school. We used to say we go from kindergarten to 5th grade. But it's so bad in the public schools, before the first semester was over, we was going from kindergarten to 8th grade. Because you can't turn the children away. Everything on any curriculum ain't no problem. Then before the school year was up, we say we all grades now. All the way through 12th grade.
That's right.
Because we're not going to turn any of our babies away. And we say we're African-centered school, but that true African-centered curriculum don't exist yet. And I've been talking to Dr. Kaba, and we're going to make that happen. That true African-centered curriculum. But we have a school right here in Fort Worth where your child is going to come, and the first thing they're going to learn is who they are. Every day. Before they touch math, before they do grammar, before they read anything, they're going to learn their grade. Every morning, 8 o'clock, you learn how great you are at the Uhuru Academy. Then we'll take it from there. You'll work out. I need you to strongly consider. No, I need you to go ahead and decide, because it is your duty, as it is mine, to support the Uhuru Academy and any other academy like Aftercare Academy in Dallas that's similar to it. You can go to our website and you can set up a financial relationship with us.
All right.
By simply going to the PayPal and say every month, put out $10. Every month, pull out $20, $50. Just create your Uhuru Academy bill. I promise you, that's going right towards the school. The babies are going to benefit from it, and we'll make sure you see their progress, and you'll be a part of their progress. That's what we need to do right now, because we're not stopping at one school. We're going to start another school, and then another school. We're trying to build school systems. Ashe? Ashe. All right, and they got to have the right culture. They got to have the right attitude, or it won't happen. This ain't Baba Amin. This is not the Baba Amin show. If we wasn't blessed to get involved with a group of Africans that got just a crazy attitude as we have, this wouldn't be happening. This wouldn't be happening. Y'all, if the universe hadn't brought us all together, this would not be happening. Do not take this for granted. There is power in this room. And I'm fortunate enough to know most of the people in here. So I know somebody here that you don't know. So trust me when I tell you, it's power in this room. You and somebody else. All right? So get yourself. We're going to get right into this. We appreciate your patience. The brother that's coming in front of you right now, of course, he was featured in Hidden Colors 1. He was, you know, when you're good, they bring you black for the sequel. He was featured in Hidden Colors 2. He's a direct student, not an internet student, not a YouTube student. He is a direct student of master teachers, such as Dr. John Henry Clark, Asa G. Hilliard, Chancellor Williams. He received their blessing. And he's been on his mission ever since. You're talking what, almost 30 years of doing this work. He's an educator by trade. Now, he's not a lecturer by trade. He's an educator by trade. He develops curriculum. Matter of fact, Dr. Clark charged him with that, brother. We need a curriculum. So when he's talking to our community, he's not just teaching, he's learning as well. And he wants to hear from you as well. And when he comes black to our community, we're going to be working. We're bringing them black, and we're going to go in the room, and we're going to start developing teachers in our community. Is that all right with y'all? We've joined the mission. We linked now, y'all. We linked now. I want y'all to stand up, show some love for your brother, Dr. Kaba Kamene. You guys, if we can come in and fill in some of these chairs, those in the VIPs. In the back. Can we come fill in some of these chairs, please? Thank you very much. Asante Sa, love it.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Hotep family. I am just so very happy, so very content to be here in Fort Worth. It has been quite a day for us.
Yes, sir.
You know, from that wonderful activity that we had today at the park. It was just a nice blend of a lot of different things. From Sister Isis with the hair and her discussion, and then the sisters that graduated from her class talking about their experiences. You see what this does for me as an individual and how I grow. Because I realize that there are times when folk believe that we come in, we being someone who will present information. I need to express to you how much I learn when I'm with you. So it's a reciprocal kind of relationship. And what I do is whenever I leave a place such as this, I go back wherever I go, and I tell folk what my experiences were there. And I let the folk know, because I know that we who are into this information, there are times when we think this is, it is a local world sometimes. But you're not alone. You know, I bring greetings from your brothers and sisters from New York. You know, to let you know how much we love and respect you. And that we have a common boundary. You here, but we there. There is a common bond between us. There are ties that bind us together. There is a very similar struggle, life system that we wage. And so I bring greetings from your family in New York City to let you know that we're here and we're aware of you and you're aware of us. The Bronx in particular, because that's where I rose. Grown up in Manhattan, just south of Harlem and just north of Hell's Kitchen. And so that was my evolution in the Amsterdam projects. But this day that we spent together has been packed with so many things that we had to do, and so much information that we shared, starting in the park this morning, Friends of Cobb Park, having that fantastic place to have that type of activity, and to have that fellowship in the park the way we had it. It was really a very worthwhile experience. So I'm going to return back to New York, and I'm going to tell our family that my experiences here with y'all and how you have been so gracious, you know, and so hospitable to your brother from New York. And so I thank you for that. I appreciate the time that you have spent, and also realizing, going from place to place, we can't always be exactly where we need to be. Some folks say on time, but I don't believe on being on time.
Yes, sir.
You see, African time is time.
All right.
You know, it's interesting when you think about the way the Western paradigm is set up. where you sweat to get to work by 9 o'clock, but you've done so much by the time you get to 9 o'clock, you're tired, and you don't get the job done. Yet, from an African perspective, the key was to get the job done. So what time you got there was not as important as if you got the job done. And I believe in getting the job done. Sometimes, the way the frame of time happens, it doesn't always happen the way we like it. When I was with the family in Dallas, I mean, there was just things going on. There were questions being asked, there were things going on, and for that moment in time, that was what was important. And just as I'm here until the job gets done.
All right.
You see, so I ain't going nowhere.
All right.
Okay. So that we're going to talk about a couple of things. Some things that I think are so very important for us to understand. We are not alone in this. There are people all over the world that are doing this type of work. There are people in London. There are people in Holland. There are brothers and sisters in France and in Sweden who are doing our ancestors' work. And they are aware of us. They are aware of what's going on. And I really firmly believe that there is a reason why we have gone through what we've gone through. As much as I think that the pain of it has its challenges and all the things that went with it, we are the caretakers. We have in our DNA the mind of the pyramid. It's in our DNA. And there came a point in time in historical cosmic reality where those who guide us said we have got to put those pyramid builders in a position to have them understand something other than the greatness of being pyramid builders. And so we've got to teach them a lesson. And the lesson that we have to teach them is that the highest of the high fall to become the lowest of the low. When the lowest of the low come upon them, and those who are high forget who they are. Everywhere where I've studied our history, whether it is in Kemet, whether it is amongst the Moors, which we'll talk about this evening, whether it is even what we do, whether it is in New York City, Fort Worth, or in Dallas, the one thing I've come to realize is that Western civilization does not have the power, the integrity, or the ability to overcome us as a people. What they do is they take advantage of the fact that we fight amongst ourselves. That's really what we've got to overcome. More than anything, we ain't got to overcome white supremacy. Because once we start to bond with each other, white supremacy is going to become the illusion that it is. See, because white supremacy really doesn't exist. It's an illusion. It's a conjured up image that is created in the mind of those whom you wish to oppress. Stargate, okay? The one that came out in 1988, 89, right? I went to see that, right? I was so taken back by this story. I had to go out and get the book, because whenever I see a movie that I enjoy, I always got to go out and get the book and get the intricacies of the movie. And in this movie, you know there is an entity that is said to have come from outer space that oppressed the people and took them off to another part of the galaxy and oppressed them and made them do his will. Funny, his name was Amun. But see, that's how you know it's not their history, because they respect that name if it was. See, the fact that they would use a name like Amun meant they did not know who Amun really was. However, it says that what this entity did to control the minds of the people, to oppress a people, he said that this entity did three things. It gave those who he wanted to oppress a myth. He made them believe the myth. And then they formed the habit of believing the myth. And while it's the hardest to get rid of, it's always the last to be formed. Because we know this is a myth, right? We don't believe it anymore. But we have formed the habit of believing it, so we're living it out during times that we don't really have to live this out. The only power that the oppressor has is the power of the mind of the oppressed. We really and truly do not know who we are. Really and truly. As a group, I'm preaching to the choir now. So I realize y'all with it. But as a people, we really don't understand. Because if we did, we would not turn on each other the way we do. You see everybody talking about the crabs in the basket. Okay. But you see, my response to that story is, to take those crabs that are in the basket, return them back to the waters from whence they naturally come. They wouldn't act like that. Crabs in the water don't pull each other. But when you take a natural entity and take them out of their natural environment and put them in an unnatural environment, they are going to act unnaturally.
All right.
And although I'm not giving any excuses, I'm just giving reasons for the way in which we conduct ourselves. And what we have to begin to do as a people is to have mercy on ourselves and to understand that our people are asleep. Many of them are asleep. They're not lost. They're asleep. Because to be lost means you must find yourself. To be asleep, you got to just wake up. You see? And that's where we are as a people. Our history is a glorious history. I also encourage us not to get caught up in thinking that you have to go back to ancient Egypt to find a classical African civilization. You can go onto the plantations of Virginia. That's a classical African civilization. The civil rights movement was a classical African civilization. We weren't building pyramids, but we were building edifices of intellectual capacity under conditions that go beyond our thoughts and our, what I could imagine happening here in Texas. See, because I'm in New York. So my image of the South, I have an image of the South just like folks have an image of the North. You see? And so what happened down here as you went for your thing, you know, my daddy from Alabama, Tuskegee, senior. And he used to tell me stories about, you know, when Northerners would come down South and start preaching to the Southerners about what they should and shouldn't take from what. And my daddy used to say, them fools, they don't know what they know. He said, because since I've been up in New York, I've found worse people in New York than I could ever find in Alabama. Because at least in Alabama, like Malcolm always said, I can appreciate the fact you just look in my face and say you hate me. But to hate me and not be willing to admit it is worse. You see, because they play games up there. And we really have to study our history. Start programs of education to reverse our mindset. We have to understand how the brain operates. See, because what has happened to us is a brain thing. Very interesting how the brain functions, how the brain works. It's probably the most marvelous and complex instrument in the cosmic universe, our brain. Just think, with everything that we've been through, we were the pyramid builders. We were then reduced to chatter. We went from being the teacher, not to the student. We went from the teacher to the dog. We were chattel. By law, and if you want to believe it, just go look at Dred Scott's decision. They'll tell you what they think. That there is no law that they feel that they have to abide by in respecting people of African descent. And I know that we might think that that puts us in a horrible position. But let me show you another paradigm, because it doesn't. It puts them in a bad condition. Because it shows how ignorant they are. And how masterful we must have been, and the fear we must have instilled in them. You have to, because you see, now I'm not going to pass no law that says dogs will not be allowed to read. Although I respect. But I'm not worried about him taking out a book and reading the book. He barked at me, right?
He's not going to do that.
But as an entity, there are things that I don't have to worry. So why are you passing laws? It must have been the fear you had if I ever learned how to read. But and out of that, we take offense to it, but we really should not take offense to it. We should celebrate that because it's only reinforcing our greatness and who we are as a people.
That's right.
See, we have to change the paradigm shift.
All right.
Because we're spending our time thinking what's wrong with us.
Yeah.
See, I don't teach our children that peoples of European descent, not in general, but as a group. And the reason why I say this is because it's extremely important that we look at this from a fundamentally balanced position. Dr. Edward Scobie. You ever heard of Dr. Edward Scobie, one of the greatest geniuses from Dominica? You gotta Google that, brother. Dr. Edward Scobie used to always say, don't tell me nothing about no good white people. He said, just don't even say it. He said, I'm not ignorant, and it is not that I don't know that there are good-hearted people who happen to be of European descent exist. He said, but good white people act as shields for bad white people.
That's right.
And then when you start letting good ones in, the bad ones follow under the pretense of being with the good ones. Follow the logic of Dr. Edward Scobie. So I'm well aware that there were good-hearted people. I did a presentation last summer, fundraiser for IT. And they asked me to do something on melanin. And I have to have a habit of asking people, you know, okay, you know me, right? So you know what I'm bringing. Okay, don't get there and start giving me directions as to what I can and cannot say. Don't do that. Let's decide right now what's going to happen. Because there are going to be people of European descent there, and I'm not going to change my tone. I'm going to say what I got to say as I say. If not, don't invite me. We'll both be happy, because at least I'll respect the fact that you're scared of what I might say. But at least I'll respect it. He said, no, man. I want you to drop it. I want you to do it. So I said, so I do a presentation on melanin, right?
Yeah.
It's easy going, nothing hard. I just happen to mention the fact that black folk don't have a problem.
Yes.
White folk have a problem.
They have a problem.
And white folk problem is black folk problem.
Yeah.
And white folk problem is white supremacy. Well, there were peoples of European descent in the audience. A little uneasy. They raised their hand. Okay. Oh, come on, they didn't know. So I said, okay, please. They said, well, right about now, I'm feeling uneasy with what you're saying. And I'm saying, that's good. Because you're supposed to be uncomfortable. You're going to come and sit in the midst of black folk in Harlem and think that what I got to say is going to make you comfortable. You must be out of your mind. I said, because I went to a conference on abuse that women have at the hands of men. And I said, I'm sitting there and I'm listening. I'm a man. But in my estimation, I have never addressed a sister that way. I have never done that to a woman. So therefore, I might be the gender that you're speaking of, but if I have not participated in that type of activity, I ain't got nothing to do. I said it's like throwing a, I threw a rock in a pack of dogs, and the only one that yelped was the one that got hit. If you got hit, that means I meant to hit you.
Come on.
And if I didn't hit you, what you talking about? Why would you be uncomfortable? There was another woman of European descent that was sitting next to me, and she said, look, she's my friend. I'll talk to her. You're absolutely correct. Just go ahead with what you're saying. So I understand the temperament of human beings that are all around us. But we have to be very direct. Because I explained to her, I said, that's why black folk don't want you around us. Because you think we got to change our conversation just because you got it. And homie ain't changing nothing. So the next time you hear, I'm going to give up, don't come.
That's right.
This is a common sense approach that we must take. And, although it has its humor to it, and although this is how we have to start to talk. And later on, there were peoples of African descent who was kind of taken back also by some of the information I shared about melanin. And they came and they thanked me. They said, because normally people always, although I might have been a little bit more comfortable had you kind of redirected your conversation, I personally would have been comfortable. She said, for the first time I realized you didn't have to. And you were correct in how you, because with respect, I didn't get all up in her. I didn't go Khaled on her or Seti on her. I love my brother Sarah Sutton Seti. That's my young brother. People need to hear what he got to say. You don't have to agree with him. Like Brother Khaled, I thought Dr. Khaled was a good doctor. I love Dr. Khaled Muhammad.
I love it.
Because I often said to peoples of European descent when they would have problems with them, I said, but you need to hear what an angry black man sounds like, because you think we holding hands going through all this stuff. There are some of us that don't like you at all. And you need to know that.
That's right. That's right.
That's good.
That's real good.
If you go around thinking we holding hands and everything is ebony and ivory living in harmony, come on, that's a piano, that ain't humanity. So my man said he was just dropping some stuff. So I appreciate him, but I didn't go there because that's not my personality, that's not my temperament. But that doesn't mean I can't respect and love a brother or a sister whose feelings is like that, okay? Because I believe we come in all different sizes and shapes and colors and tones, taste and tones. So I come from a little bit of a different perspective as it relates to my approach. And probably also because I deal with so many children. And I always have to be very careful, and have had to be very careful with the things that I've said in staff development sessions, because I'm speaking to peoples who are hostile to me from the beginning. They're hostile to the children. And the one thing is, that I don't want to do is set one of them nuts off to go back into the classroom and take out on the children what they would really like to take out on me but don't have the courage. And so I've always had to measure myself, not necessarily on my own behalf, but on behalf of the children that I know they're going to have to return back to. We have to know who we are. We have to understand the entire spectrum of our lives. And we have to be brave enough and courageous enough for our children to hear us speak this way. Because I believe this is one of the things that we sort of kind of lost track with as an elder population. A lot of us do, with all the love and respect due, we're trying to make it better for our children, but in so doing, we neglected them when our children needed us the most. And I know that because I was their surrogate parent, kindergarten teacher, with 5-year-olds. I could write a book on the amount of students in my career that said to me, "Can I call you Daddy? I wish you were my dad. You remind me of my dad." And I used to say, "I am your dad. You know, as long as I'm in this room, I am your dad. I didn't bring you in the world, but I'm going to guide it so that you can stay in it." And this was my relationship with my children. And I am presently a college professor, college educator. And what I've noticed is that the educational system, there's no fundamental, if I had my way, you could not walk into a college professorship from PhD program. I would make every teacher go to kindergarten and work their way up to their grade of choice. Because as a kindergarten teacher and as a college teacher, I know where they were when they were in kindergarten. You see, I know where they were. I was with them. I understand them. I understand what it is like for a 5-year-old not to know how to properly go to the restroom. I know what it is like for them not to be able to button their clothing, zip their zippers, tie their shoes. I know what it's like to administer as a parent to a human being. And I'm telling you, some college students need that same.
That's right.
Not on a 5-year-old's level,
Oh,
but many of them still need, for so many of us who have not had that adult male in our life.
That's right.
Many of them see me as the adult male in their life. Many of them invite me to, like, after my classes that I teach basically like about 6 to 8:30. And they have programs back in their dormitories in the student activity rooms, and they'll invite me back to be there. They'll order pizza and soda, and they'll just do a presentation. I'll do something on the Dogon or Shabaka Stone or the Moors, okay? And we just sit there and we'll chat and we'll talk. And I can tell, having children of my own, that they're looking at me like I'm their father. And I can tell that by our conversation. So we can't even let our college students, who might be 20, 21 years of age, get to the point where we don't need it. They need that affirmation, that reaffirmation also, particularly when it's been missing throughout their life. I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about. When I was teaching, I went into a middle school. Middle school basically was 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. I go in there and I'm a director of a program, social studies, cultural education. The principal wanted to develop a program directly in the school, so she offered me a room that I could convert into a social studies room, into a cultural room. And I said, sure. There were adults in the building that didn't care for that idea at all. So what they conspired to do was to bring me into a very special education class. And they say, go for what you know. And then they step over by the door. Because now they want to see me. They want to see what I can do with these young brothers. Young brothers. All brothers. Some speak Spanish, some speak English. All brothers. You're Puerto Rican, you're black. You're Jamaican, you're black. You Haitian, you're black. And I deal with you like that. Okay? And basically I say, you my son. I'm black. You my son, you black. Okay? No haga eso. So we just get there. Don't even go there. Don't play. Okay? Because it's important that we unite ourselves as a people. In those islands of the Caribbean, you are African. Let's be very clear. Louisiana and the Caribbean have intimate ties. Through genealogy, there are direct ties in Louisiana, from the French-speaking to the Spanish-speaking. So I'm in the classroom. There's a brother who's sitting at the desk. He's got his hoodie on, and he's got his head on his desk, and he's just laughing. He's just laughing. People are watching, so I just let him keep laughing. I'm teaching a class on culture. Brother raised his hand. Yeah, brother. Why your hair so long? Okay, so I tell him the story about not showing the lock. Okay, that's the story of Samson. Don't show the lock. I don't cut my hair. Okay, it's simple like that. That's my belief system. It's called. Well, where'd it come from? He laughing. I answer his question. Why you got earrings? I go through the concept of the whole conceptual framework of joyeria or jewelry and the whole idea of having jewelry. He's still laughing. Okay. At some point in the conversation, he picks his head up. Still laughing. Long story short, he keeps asking questions. I keep answering the questions. Pretty soon he stops asking questions. And I go on with my class. Pretty soon he asks a decent question. He's no longer laughing. What I did was I addressed the spirit that was never addressed when he was 2 years old. Because you see, these right to pass programs that we have, these are really based on, the reason why we get so caught up in the 12 and 13 one is because of the bar mitzvah for people who are of Jewish faith. So we focus on everything that they focus on. No problem. That's cool. But we have many more rights. That is not a right of passage, that's a right to pass. There's a difference. We used to have, within the African context, we had a right to pass program when a child was conceived. When mother found out she was carrying baby, we had a right to pass program. When the baby was born, we had a right to pass program. When the baby was 2 to 3, we had a right to pass program. When the baby was 7 to 9, we had a right to pass program. When the baby was 12, 13, we had a right to pass program. When the child was 19, we had a right to pass program. And when the elder became an elder, we had a right to pass program. Life was a right of passage. There's a difference. That young man, when you are conceived, that's one level of spiritual growth. When you are born into the world, another spirit manifests itself. When you're 2 to 3 years old, those ages, Brother Das, I know you're going through some of this stuff here with the 2 to 3 year old. Why? Okay? This civilization calls it the terrible twos. I call it the terrific twos, because a child not asking you why, you better watch out. Because that's the child that can be taken and kidnapped away. When you're in the mall and you turn your attention, another adult can come by and take that child. So that why is a spiritual manifestation within the human being that says, okay, mommy, daddy, look, you've been telling me all this, I've been following what you say, all right. I'm with you. But now, why? That's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And when you answer the questions, no matter, and why? Then you answer, and then why? Shut up, because I said something. No, that's not how you go with this. You keep answering the question, because eventually that child's going to stop asking you the question, because you will have satisfied that spirit. That young man, when I walked into that classroom and he kept asking me why, I knew he had not, that spirit had not been addressed. And so therefore I addressed it. No matter if he's 12 or 13, it should have been done at 2 and 3. 10 years later, I'm doing it because I am manifesting within that young man a right to pass. By the way, he became one of my best students. And if I may say good friend, he's young, but he was somebody that I learned to trust greatly. And I've observed him graduate, and he and I have been in contact through the years. We haven't recently, but through the years we were in contact. And it came directly out of that one moment that I decided that I was going to return back to an African tradition and take that young brother through a rite of passage. And that was one of the most powerful experiences that I can give to you as an example of some of the things that we have to do for our young people. We have not been addressed. Our spirit has not been addressed. So many of us, our spirits have not been addressed. And we're going through these changes with each other, trying to get these. The majority of myself. There was no real right to pass program when I was conceived. There wasn't a right. And not because my parents didn't love me, but they didn't know better. You can't do what you don't know. And so the conceptual framework that we're coming from this evening is to understand that when you're observing our people out in the street, the gangbanger, the pimp, the prostitute, okay, love them unconditionally.
Right.
But administer mercy,
Right.
which is tough love. Okay, I'm sorry, you can't handle this. Or we're going to find a way to do this, but I just can't agree with the way you're conducting yourself, because that is un-African. This is not, but I love you, and I respect you, and I see the potential in you, but let's see what we can do. Now, I'm not asking us to take ourselves into harm's way. Okay, I know sometimes you try that, but you're in big trouble. But I'm saying that we need to change the paradigm as it relates to how we talk to each other as a people. Because that young man or that young woman selling drugs out in our community, that's our child.
That's right.
No matter how we may feel, that's our child. Somewhere along the line, there was something that did not happen for that young person that needed to happen. We may not be in a position to do it ourselves, but we certainly can be in the mindset to at least respect them, to understand that we got to get this. We got to do something about this. This is not healthy for you. This is not healthy for me. This is not healthy for our future. Let's figure out how we're going to do this. Give me some examples. Talk to me about how we might be able to handle this. What are you looking for? And again, this is under controlled situations now. Please understand what I'm saying. But I'm just giving us I'm attempting to at least demonstrate a different way that we can start to think and look as it relates to the brothers and sisters in the street. And down here it's a little bit different, I know, because down south, you know, I can get along down south, because in New York City, you know, my son or my daughters walk with me in the street, okay? And somebody will stop and we'll start talking. And, you know, my son will say, well, how long you know him? I just met him. See, because I got that southern kind of concept that every African is my brother. Yeah. Or my sister, so that I can get into an extended conversation that to somebody who's more in a child's mind might think that's a good friend of mine. But I mean, they don't understand the Southern, the African, the Caribbean flavor that we just greet each other, you know? Honk the horn when you're passing in the street. Raise your hand, say how you doing. That's a tradition. But in New York City, that ain't a tradition. Okay? You know, I get on the elevator and say, hey, good morning. You know? But the second time I get on the elevator, hey, good morning. Okay? Third time I get on the elevator, good morning. Good morning. Next time I get on, they tell me good morning first. Somebody has to be strong enough and mature enough to be able to move through the nonsense. But now, if we're gonna get into, well, they didn't say good morning to me, so I ain't gonna say that to them no more. In fact, I'm gonna give them a dirty look. In fact, I'm not even, when I see them, I'm not gonna get on the elephant. This is how some people have begun to interact with each other through the frustrations of the lives that we're living.
That's what it is.
We have to have mercy on us. We've been through quite a bit. Yes, it is hard. It is, but that's part of our humanity that makes it hard. You see, we have to get spiritual about this. Because the spiritual piece to this says it's all right. I feel you, I know. Okay, it's like someone you watch sleep. You're working in the house. Okay? My goodness, you know, I mean, you get a little frustrated because you're doing all the work and they sleep. So you wake them up, right? They get all irritable. They start getting in your way. You wish you never woke them up. In fact, you want to get a hammer, knock them on the head, knock them back out so they don't bother you no more because they get in you. Because someone who is not ready to deal with reality should be kept asleep. To stay out your way. So while you can get the job done. So that when they do wake up, they'll be ready to go. Because they will have been well rested. We have been through something. And each by matter of degree needs a certain amount of time to wake up.
All right.
Come on.
And not to hold people accountable for being where we are at this point in our lives. But for the grace of God, there go I. And I know that. See, I tell people, I will not write my autobiography until I get too old to care what people think about. Because these statute of limitations don't run out on black men.
Come on.
They'll say, bring him to my court. He said, well, Your Honor, he's been dead 20 years. Exhume his bodies. They'll bring my coffin up to the court. You know, try me. Okay? Find me guilty. Give me life. Lawyer said, but Dr. Judge, dead. Life and death. I ain't telling my story. Because it's taking things to get me where I am right now.
Oh, yes.
As it's taking everyone in this room certain things to get where y'all are. Y'all know what I'm talking about. There are many things that you have to do in the world that we're living in.
That's right.
And we did what we had to do to get where we had to go.
That's right.
No matter what it may be. And that, therefore, I hold no one, do not have any regrets, because everything you ever did brought you to be able to sit here on this day with us today. So I have no regrets. No matter what. This was all part of that process of becoming. To be able to move to this level where we can understand who we are as a people. We've been made aware. Just examples. We said we're going to talk about the Moors.
Yeah.
And I just want to talk to you about, see, actually, when I taught this course in college, I couldn't call it the Moors. I wanted to call it the Moors, but I was advised that that wasn't a good idea, so I called it the African presence in medieval Europe. You got to do it. And what was interesting, it became translisted. Translisted in college, in the college where I am, means that there were people who were majoring in European history. There were people who were studying and majoring in medieval history, who were not necessarily prone to the Moors. It's just medieval and Europe attracted them. So they took my course. Well, you know, like I used to tell them, y'all better bring water. Because your mouth's so dry, you keep your mouth get dry, start coughing and whatnot. But put some water up in this glass so that you can drink that water, make your throat a little bit wet, because your mouth will open too much, plus flies will get in there. They were shocked. They were shocked. We dropped some stuff on them. And it was so documented. See, because this stuff is documented. You know, this is not like we're just talking off or emotional or attempting to get people. I'm not in any way, and may I tell you this, please don't believe anything that I say. I don't want you to believe me. I want you, the greatest thing I could ever do for any student, for any person, that I could ever impart anything to make you think.
That's right.
That's all.
That's it.
It's not about believing. It's about In fact, it's not even about taking you out of the box. It's about helping you understand that there is no box.
All right, all right. Oh, my God.
It's all right?
I like that.
We are living illusions that go beyond. You see, to truly understand the movement, I would begin with race and origins of Africans in early Europe. We would have to understand that there was a human family, according to Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop, in his work. Says there are basically 6 forms of human beings. There are a lot of other names for them, but I like his way of breaking them down chronologically. He says that there is the Australopithecus robustus. Australopithecus robustus, robust is the operative word. It means it's robust, very thick human being. And that this human being would then graduate into what's called the second form of Australopithecus gracile. The operative word gracile, graceful, it means that because of its life system, it began to smooth out its body. It began to become svelte. Because of what it was doing, it no longer lived the way it lived before. And so it lost a lot of its depth, its deep, heavy boniness. However, what happened with gracile is that watermelon. I'm gonna use water. I always use water. I'm not ashamed of it. I love watermelon. In fact, if you eat watermelon, you're smart because it's the most perfect food you can eat. It has everything that you need to survive. See, they even got us shamed to say that we eat watermelon. I love watermelon. In fact, I call it wojamelon. I don't even call it watermelon. It spit seeds on the ground. And it observed that a patch would come up of watermelons. It would spit the watermelon seeds out. They'd see a patch would come up. So what they began to do is they began to say, you know something? This is when they start thinking now. This is the second form, Australopithecus gracile. They say, if I should dig a hole and put the seed in, it would lessen the time because the earth, I wouldn't have to wait for the earth to take it in. It would be right in, and then it would grow quicker. I'd be able to eat quicker. Be good. Put his finger in. Okay, that works. However, after a while, he said, wait a minute though, but my finger, it hurts putting it in the earth. So if I took a stick, okay, this is the breakthrough, because this is the tool maker. Because now he's no longer using his body to move ahead, he's now using nature around him. And that stick is what's going to transform this individual into a whole nother thinker. We're going to start to do that. That is going to transform them into a whole nother level of human being that's called Homo habilis, which is, habilis is ability, human of ability, tool maker. Homo habilis is going to do this, it's going to be great, everything's wonderful. For thousands and thousands of years, they're going to eat better. When they eat better, they think better. When they think better, they eat better. And so the cycle of improvement and consciousness is going to grow. All of a sudden, something's going to start to happen to this Homo habilis, and Homo habilis now is going to begin to stand up straight. Okay, now, physiologically speaking, in your brain, in the base of your brain, you have an area that's called foramen magnum. F-O-R-A-M-E-N, magnum, M-A-G-N-U-M, foramen magnum. It's a little opening that your spinal cord goes, okay. When you are bent over and you're walking hunched, you're creating angles, which act as interruptions of the flow of your blood. Okay? When this human went from this kind of direction with this head coming like this, orthograde, when it wasn't doing this, what happened in standing up straight, it created a full line of the spinal cord, which began to distribute the cerebrospinal fluid more fluently through the body and through the brain. Okay? The blood system began to go through the body smoother. Not only that, but when they stood up, when you're like this, your greatest concern is what's in front of you. Okay, so you're living a world where you're always concerned about this. But when you stand up straight, you begin to look out there, and that's when you start thinking about the future. Because now you can see where you're going. Not where you are, but where you're going.
That's good.
You see, Homo erectus in standing up not only physiologically changed the way in which the liquid systems went through their body, but he also began to create concepts of what is to come, which changed his entire daily thinking pattern as it relates to what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen the day after tomorrow. And so this human form changed its entire structure. Homo erectus then transformed into a thinking human being. That became Homo sapiens. And then Homo sapiens became Homo sapiens sapiens. Now, I've said it every place I've been. And for those of you who may not have been in every place I've been, there's going to be news for you. It is believed by Dr. Richard King and others that there was a seventh form of human being in the process of becoming that is known as Homo maximus. And that was the one that began to evolve. Let me explain to you what I mean by that. The human now, I got into this in the other group, and I know some people get a little tight, Joe. They have a problem, okay, about concepts of evolution. And I know. But gorillas don't want to be identified with us either. Trust me, one of them in the Bronx who told me. He said, y'all don't even know what to eat, so don't even act like you know. Gorillas and humans did not evolve from each other. But we had a common ancestor. And our ancestor left the tree and came down onto the grasslands, while the one that remained in the tree evolved into who we now today call the gorilla or the ape. And again, Dr. Diop's work, very clear. Civilization of barbarism, very clear. And also other people's work, very clear. I know we all hold on to the Christian doctrine, I understand, okay? And hey, listen, I'm not gonna say nothing, because I have a lot of respect for Christianity. I have a lot of respect for Christianity because had it not been for Christianity, I don't know if many of our ancestors could have survived on the plantation. The idea to have had a person that is called Jesus the Christ that went through the type of life that he went through, and to know as African people we were going through the same type of life, we could identify with him. And in so doing and realizing that this man, Jesus the Christ, despite the fact that at the end of his life, his brother, he only had 12 friends. And even some of them wasn't friends. Peter, who was really Patah, but that's a whole nother story. Yeah, the rock upon which I'm going to build my church, that's the hill of Patah.
Break it
Buddha,
down.
that's Patah. That's where Buddha come from. He come from Patah. No, I'm going to go there now, because y'all, I think on your face y'all can handle it.
Yes, go there, go there.
Brother goes to the Garden of Gethsemane. Here's Jesus. Okay? Yo, you are my man. Okay? He brings two of his boys. His security. Okay? He brings his boys. He said, I'm going here to talk to my father. I need you all to stand guard. Look, the Romans are coming. Just let me know when they come. Jesus go in, man. See, think of Africans on a plantation hearing this story. And think like that. Don't think like you. Think like that. Jesus the Christ, man, he comes and he kneels down. See, because he knows what's going to happen. This is Thursday. Had a full meal, just sat with the boys. He said, Father, just let this cup pass? Yo, I'm your son. So he goes back, something comes over him. And he says, well, Father, let your will be done. See, I'm talking metaphor now. Okay? Let your will be done. We'll go ahead and do this. He comes back out. He sees the Romans coming. He sees the lamps coming. He sees his boys that they scared. They're moving out the Romans' way, just letting them just slide right through to get his boy. Talk about security, right? Where my dogs at? Okay. And then here comes Judas. Probably one of his most prized friends. The brother that's been in the trenches with him. He comes and he embraces him and he kisses him. And Jesus stepped back. He said, you betrayed me. Think of black folk on the plantation. And what's going on the plantation. And understand why Christianity would mean so much to them, even to this day. See, because that's how I deal with this. Because I understand something about the mind and the way the mind works and what must have gone on in our people's minds when this was going on. The horrific life that they must have lived, and yet this story allowed them to live vicariously through this character to the next day. One of his boys, he gets real bold. I just cuts the arrow. Jesus picked the arrow, put it back on the Roman soldier. He said, it's too late for that now, man. You should have done that before. This story is a wonderful story. It met our needs and solved our problems. It allowed us to be in this room today.
All right.
And for that I will be forever grateful. Christianity. It helped us. It met our needs and solved our problems. However.
Go ahead.
I got a brother named Jeremiah Kamara out of Atlanta. He wrote a book, The New Doubting Thomas. Jeremiah is my man. I was at Dr. Ray Hagan's convocation in Detroit. And Jeremiah Kamara made a statement. And I went up to him later. I said, brother, man, that was some heavy stuff, man. I got to write this down. I got to repeat this. Because this is a powerful way of saying something that's so very important to say, but needs to be said so very carefully and delicately. Can you write that down? I said, I promise you I'll always give you credit, just like I did. I promise you I'll always give you credit for having told me this, but I gotta say it. And so he told it to me, I wrote it down real carefully. And I read it back to him. I said, is that how you'd say it? He said, you got it, brother. And what I wrote down was, when a spiritual system no longer meets your needs and solves your problems, it's like carrying the boat on your back after you cross the river. You needed that boat to get across the river.
Yeah.
It met your needs and solved your problems. But once you continue to carry something that no longer meets your needs and solves your problems, in fact becomes an impediment to you, it becomes a burden on you, it becomes a weight on your back.
Yeah.
Got to give it up. I think Marvin Gaye wrote a song. Got to give it up. And that's what the spiritual systems that we have inherited, this contaminated spirituality that we gave them. They gave it back to us in a contaminated form. In a form that no longer meets our needs and solves our problems.
Say that.
With due respect.
Yeah.
With due respect. And I don't mean no harm, no disrespect to nobody. You carry on. You do what you want to do. But just understand why I won't. Just respect why I won't. Because if I had my druthers, I'd rather buy every t-shirt, book, and DVD in this store. I'd rather give my brother, Baba Amin, my money for his school
Come on.
than to pay for the gas in the pastor's car. Security, get on post. Because you know, if we were as loyal to our Africanness as we are to this faith system that doesn't exist, we would be free. With due respect. With the respect that's due. Because again, for so many of our people who are still asleep, this is a crutch. It still lets them get up in the morning and face the world that is very angry towards them. It still allows them to believe that there is redemption in creative suffering. To me, my own perspective is my view, but others don't think that way, and so I'm not going to try to superimpose my views on them.
You can in this room.
Do your thing.
You can in here.
I can't.
Yeah, you can.
Well, I got my security here.
Wait,
Yeah.
it's needed in Texas.
Yes, it is. My sister's needed in New York.
But we got too many churches here.
Hello.
But,
Listen. Started something up in here. I was
Get
looking
to address
at.
Islam too, though.
Say again, brother.
Get to address Islam too, though.
Well, look.
Just wanted to call spade a spade.
Brother Doss. Come on. Every spiritual system and faith system that exists from agnostic to Zoroastrianism came out of an African mind. And once other people got a hold of it, they put their mentality over it and contaminated it. From agnostic to Zoroastrianism. So I'm talking about them all. All of it. And what we need to do is we need to ground ourselves. We need to do that thing like in the Wizard of Oz. We need to be like Dorothy and click our heels 3 times and say, I want to go home. And return back to our African spirituality. Because in our African spirituality, there's one thing we're going to accept, we're going to understand. Is that each and every one of us in this room is God having a human experience. There is no God that's out there. There is no God that's in here. We are God.
That's right. That's right.
Come on, tomorrow's Sunday, right? That's the bottom line. And how you treat each other. How we treat each other is how you honor God.
Come on, say it.
That's the bottom line. How we treat each other is how we honor God.
Teach.
How we treat the living world around us is how we treat the Creator. All things are emanations of the Creator. And how we treat all these things is how we honor our Creator. It's very simple like that. Don't tell me that God told you to go to war. God don't send people to war. Don't tell me that Allah told you to go to war. I don't want to hear that.
That's right.
I am not saying that there is not times that you must have righteous indignation. And I am not saying that there are not times that you have got to become Herukuti, who is the righteous warrior. But what I'm saying is know when it's time to be Malcolm, know when it's time to be king. Don't be king when it's Malcolm, don't be Malcolm when it's king. Because then you're not speaking in the language that you're spoken to.
Yes, sir.
We have to think about these things seriously and move forward with an agenda with our children. This is the spirit that we need to bring this information with. As men, okay, we have to look to the system. Okay, because I'll be honest with you, brothers. I've been in a lot of places where I spoke. All the brothers are single. Come on, brothers. Where we think we're going to build that nation? You know, I see a lot of folk, brothers and sisters all together, but ain't nobody going home together tonight.
That's right.
How you going to build a nation, you sing?
Thank you.
A nation is only strongest and is only as strong as its weakest family. And no, please don't tell me nothing about no nation if you don't have a security force to protect it. There we go. I was going to say it, but I was going to let someone else say it.
We heard that.
You know,
No retire.
we have.
90 years old.
There we go.
Still selling newspapers. No retire.
No time.
You got a nation.
But we have to work. Oh, I just got your message. It took a little while, but I got it. Here's the bottom line. We have to be very serious about what we're talking about.
That's right.
Very, very serious about it. Okay? I've spoken places. And I've been to people's wedding, and they say, will you say a couple words? Are you sure? They say, yeah. I said, okay. I said, let me tell y'all something. Bless you too, but y'all did not get married because you in love. You got married because you're infatuated with each other. See, love hurts.
That's right.
Love exists when you want to walk away,
Wow.
but you choose not to because there's something larger than just your desires.
Come on.
All right.
Love is when you've had just about enough, and you don't think you can take another message, and you're ready to step out, go out, and don't come back. Love is what allows you to walk around the block, but come back home.
Come on.
That's love. That other stuff is infatuation. Oh, we got some high five. See, this is very real. And African nations are built on this type of foundation. Okay, here's the point. My wife and I have been married 32 years.
Beautiful.
All right.
32 years. May 1st, 1989. I learned the secret of what kept us together. When my wife and I would get in a situation, and after heavily contemplating, I realized she was right. And I said, baby,
That's a real man.
but check this out.
That's real.
But check this out. Times we get into it, after careful contemplation, I realize I'm right.
That's right.
I looked at her and I said, baby, you're right. You're right.
They don't understand.
Well, it took, well, you know, I say this in jest, you know, because, you know, it didn't always go like that. But I know, having been through it for 32 years, it's not easy. It's never easy when two people have to live as one, to get along with something. And I know that. And vice versa. Okay? But the bottom line is, somehow or other, baby, we're going to work this out. And divorce is not enough.
That's what I'm talking about.
We're going to work it out. Somehow, some way, we're going to work it out.
All right.
When? That's still to be determined. How? I have no idea. But we are going to work it out. Because you see, the other thing I tell people, they say, well, you know, like, how do I know who I should marry? And I always tell brothers, you should marry the woman that you would have been had you been born a woman.
Come on.
And sisters, you ought to marry the man that you would have been had you been born a man.
That's a good word.
Because everything my wife does, I say, damn, I'd have done the same thing if I were a woman. So I never had a problem. But this is an African tradition. Because we think with one mind. This stuff here got us all buck wild crazy. People say, I'm schizophrenic. Schizophrenic? To be a black man in America, I got 14 personalities in me. My wife told me this. I have 17. There's 3 that I don't know. But all of us do. When we go out as black people, how many times have I ever woke up in the morning and asked myself, how black can I be today?
You know how angry I am.
Because I know I'm going to bump up into somebody that I'm going to have to kind of change my personality real quick. As black people, see, white people wake up, they just white.
Come on.
And there's no concern about, and even though they're schizophrenic, but see, our thing is we have multiple personalities, but we know who's in control. There's a master controller that says, okay, it's time to be so-and-so. It's time to be so-and-so. See, I got somebody in me that I tell them, look, you don't want to wake that brother up. Just leave Nat Turner asleep. Because if that brother wake up, he's clearing the house. Dolly House gone. Over. Because Nat is in me. And I know Nat's in me. And he's going to stay in me. Because there have been times in my life where Nat has kept me alive. So Nat is there to stay. There are sometimes I let him rattle, make some noise. But for the most part, I keep Nat under control. Nat don't take tea for the food. And we all have that in us. It's according to how much we can submerge it. It's very unhealthy. Because there's times that you just got to let Nat walk the courtyard sometimes. Okay? And look, don't just think I'm talking about men. Because I got a sister named Des Hafiz in me. And Des Hafiz was that Haitian warrior that they said that sister would slice a man's head off in one swing. The French were more afraid of Des Hafiz than Des Ali. That's Des Hafiz. She's in me. I've got the feminine and male principles in me.
All right.
Because that's what balances me with my aunt. I've got a mother. And these are the kinds of things that we have to have honest conversations about as it relates to the people within us, not thinking we're going crazy. Because we're not going crazy. We go crazy when we let the wrong person come up and take control.
Okay.
We got to keep the right person in control. Because there's even times when you got to keep Nat Turner quiet, but moving towards the objective. Nat, don't say nothing. Just do it. Just do it. Nat want to come, yeah. No, Nat, quiet, just do it. Our personalities, who we are as a people, it's in us. Be healthy, be happy. Know that they're there. And understand this process of knowledge and wisdom. And see, I haven't really touched on knowledge and wisdom as it relates to who the Moors were. I'm just touching on issues that I think laid a foundation for me to come back and lay even deeper information. But the Moors were a people that very misunderstood. And it's because of our interpretations of them as a people that we perceive them and we give them names that other people gave them, but we don't realize that that's really not who they are. Moors historically come from a larger group that are known as the Gadamantes. The Gadamantes were African people during the earliest of times that moved north and then started to move west. They would create the institutions that would be in Tunisia and in Libya. They would go over to Morocco and Mauritania. They would also come across and go to Senegal. Dr. Diop has a great piece in Myth or Reality where he talks about the peopling of Africa from the Nile Valley. where he shows how these people came into existence. And so these are Africans who, through geographic locations, become various nations. I believe, and let me say where I'm coming from. I do not spend a great deal of time trying to figure out what our ancestors called the continent of Africa. I don't think they had a name for it. I think they were more important in nations than they were labeling an entire geographic location. I don't know if that was important. They were nation-oriented, not continent. Western civilization is very territorial. That comes out of your art complex. That comes out of a deep territorial brain that is very dangerous, very possessive, very jealous, and very envious, and very violent. And so what they do is that they take your land and then they set up a fence and say, you can't come. But to Africans, it was nations. And the nations were bounded by natural boundaries. Maybe a mountain range on one side and a river system on another. In that middle was that nation. And I really don't know if they cared about having a name for the whole continent. I don't know if it's value to me to know.
That's right.
And so I'm not going to spend time trying to research that. Because even if I found out, okay, what's next? It doesn't really serve. And now I'm not saying that those who are doing it should stop doing it. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying for my research, that's not important because I don't think they had a name for the continent. But to understand the Moors, you would have to understand these Africans that we're calling the Moors, you would have to understand the role they played in history. And what they did sequentially.
That's right.
Do you know that in Nigeria, this works, brother? See, what's so interesting about this, and is it all right to put it on top of that machine? There are just phenomenal things. Please, brother, if I'm going to share.
Here's a chair.
Just yet. Interesting concept. 70 feet.
Wow.
Okay? Mark McCaskill of the Sunday Times, the rampart was 100 miles long and formed a rough circle enclosing a city more than 400 square miles. 400 square miles. How far is it from here to Dallas? 400 square miles. There is a city in Nigeria. The builders shifted a 3.5 million cubic meters of earth to build just a rampart alone. 1 million cubic meters, more than the amount of rock and earth used in the Great Pyramid at Giza. Therefore, Eredu's construction is estimated to have involved about 1 million more man-hours than were necessary to build the Great Pyramid. We're talking about Nigeria. And by the way, this city was dated to be 1000 AD.
Wow.
You see who we are? This would make Eredu one of the largest cities in all of human history. Among the discoveries, a 3-story ruin has been identified tentatively as the Royal Palace. It had living quarters, shrines, and courtyards. It is possible that thousands of smaller buildings are still concealed by the forests and will be mapped in time. Radiocarbon dating has so far established that the buildings and walls were more than 1,000 years old. Dates such as 800 AD have been suggested. Now, if this is 1,000 years old, how long did it take them to build it? Now, how long did it take to develop the math and science that would go into the thinking of building it in the first place before the first stone was laid? This is where they say they came and got primitive Africans. There was nothing in Europe like this. It's still not. See, we don't know who we are. We don't know where we've been. We don't know what we built. We don't know what we've done. And this is only one part of it. I can take you to Southern Africa, and I can talk to you about things that were around for thousands of years in Southern Africa. I can show you things in Central Africa that existed before Europeans even had depigmented themselves out of being African people. This is our history. This is who we are as a people. You want to see something?
Yeah.
I'm going to show you a picture of what the original Americans looked like.
Ooh, I love you.
There you go. That's what the original American looked like.
Wow.
That's a black man. Woman, I mean.
It's a woman. It's a sister. That's what the original American looked like. For thousands of years before the Native American that we think is the indigenous population, this is who they killed off. There's a book, David and Hotep book, Africans were the first Americans. There's another book by a brother by the name of Nasser M. Nehe Ali. It's called The Paleo-Americans.
The what?
The Paleo-Americans. Paleo means ancient. It's a fantastic piece of writing. Let me show you something. You see what I like about all of this? This is what the book looks like. Okay. Now here's what I like about it. Let's just walk through this together. Here's his work citation. That's only up to the M's. See, I just want you all to experience. It's worth the experience. Here's another book. Sister has it. I'm sorry.
I'm just reading.
Yeah, I mean, see, I like documentation. This shuts down the room
Yeah.
because there's no discussion after this. Now, because it's in the book, don't make it right. But where's yours? Okay, you could say that 150, 60 odd book ain't telling the truth. Where's yours that does?
That's right.
Here's another book, Pyramids in America. You know there are pyramids in Texas, right?
No.
Yes, there are pyramids in Texas. In Texas, yes. Yes, there are. Let me run through this. Oh yeah, there's a pyramid. Look, I did a tour on the largest pyramid in the Northern Hemisphere, which is located in East St. Louis. It's called Cahokia. I was on top of Monk's Mound on the 21st of September, which was the autumnal equinox. And the sun crossed right over my head as I was doing the presentation. The Monk's Mound and Giza Pyramid, if you go up in the heavens and look down, they're all facing the exact same direction. There are pyramids in China, you know it. Okay. You know, there are pyramids in Guatemala. There are pyramids, there are 150 pyramids along the Mississippi River. These people, these Paleo-Americans are the ones that did it. Okay?
Brother, come real quick, man.
Sure.
Where's the proof that, from what I understand, that when the stones removed from the pyramids here in the America, that's why it's
Yes.
third mound?
Many of them, Monk's Mound is called Monk's Mound because of the Trappist monks that built their monastery, taking the stones off of the mound. You see, mounds don't have to be perfect pyramids. We know that the original pyramids, the structure for the original pyramids came out of what we call ring tumuli. Ring tumuli we find in inner Africa. Ring tumuli were like pyramidal in shape, but they told you what time of day it was. Okay? Sundials, exactly. They were like sundials. But as it moved north, it perfected itself into the pyramids that we look at, and that's what we're looking at today. The pyramids of Kemet are not telling you what time of day it is, it's telling you what season you're experiencing by the casting of the shadow where the sun is. So if the shadow is casting on one side, what that's representing is the fact that that's what season you're experiencing, and that's the agriculture. Here's a question about power that I'm going to ask you, and if you can answer this. My question is, if they were to close all of the supermarkets, Piggly Wiggly, Walmart, all that, if they closed everything, could you eat?
Yes.
By that I mean,
That's a question.
yes, I'm saying that I knew
Like growing your own
a
food.
nutritional worker in my school in the Bronx. She and her sister had a little house in the Bronx. They had a little garden in their backyard. They used to grow tomatoes and lettuce, tomatoes and cucumbers. And they knew I liked salad, so every so often, her name was Sadie. Sadie would make a little salad from her homegrown backyard. Okay? She had power. Because she could eat. Okay, if you can't eat, you have no power. Because although it's green, you can't eat money. You can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have a little garden, and even in projects, you can grow that little garden on your windowsill. One of the things we need to get back to, and see, again, I'm down south, so please understand, I'm a New Yorker. I'm thinking like a city slicker. So I know that y'all got all sorts of gardens all around you, and I understand that. So please forgive this New York brother that's coming down with a city mind.
We ain't got none. But y'all just do not have more.
We need more.
We got green.
Yes. Well, what we need is that possibly the Friends of Carl Park might develop a garden program where you
That's
can.
right.
Maybe I know brother was talking about his gardening program for the children.
That's good.
I'm saying here at the Doc Bookstore, you can implement gardening programs where you can come in and have people who are farmers within the community teach the community
But we don't
how
know
to grow.
do it. We don't know how to do it.
But you know something, we need to learn.
We sure do.
We do. We need to learn. And in my home, we got a little avocado growing in our window. We have a green pepper growing in our window. Okay? Now that's limited power. Because once that's gone, we hungry. But the idea that I'm telling you is that that's power. That's power. If you know gardens, if you know farmers, where you can send the children during the summertime to be able to get their hands dirty, to help the farmer grow, and at the same time they learn how to grow food, they can get out there and make their own food, make their own salad. The children would love that. Here is some additional sites. Mexico, Ontario, Canada, Scotland, Yucatan. Okay, Peru. Here's the recommended readings in this book. Stuff without wanting to show you citations. Not that I'm saying that all this is true. What I'm saying is that this is where I'm getting my information. Okay, this is this brother's book. Here's the researcher's notes. They have this book, by the way. This one, Pyramids in America.
Oh, they do.
Yeah. Okay, now. Here's South Dakota. Here's the pyramids that are in South Dakota. Here's Tennessee.
Spiral of Coleman, spiral mound.
Okay, now here. Now, it's here that here in Texas, you have evidence of this original human being in Texas.
Really?
Sandy Creek site in Crosby County, Texas, has provided evidence of Paleo-American habitation dating to 16,540 years before the present, here in Texas. Do you know that some of you, if you backtrack your family lineage, some of you might go back to West Africa, but some of you still might be in America 10,000 years ago? So when you hear the Washington Nation talking about they were here, they're serious. They were here. This is Texas. Now, let me show you the pyramids in Texas. Cato Mounds in Cherokee County, Alto, Cherokee County. Okay, is located 1649 State Highway 21 West Alto, Texas. You got pyramids in Texas. How about Medicine Mounds? Here's some additional pyramids. McFadden Indian Mound. Funny that they call it McFadden. Hale Mound, Tilson Mound, Westerman Mound, Camacho Mound, Flower Mound. That's Tarrant County. That's him? Okay. Y'all need to do a tour over there. That's a field trip.
Yeah, what about Blue Mound?
Let's go back. Flower Mound.
Yeah, that's right over here.
That's a pyramid. And your ancestors built that. And not just that, but there's evidence of the original human beings, the Paleo-Americans, in Texas. You were here 16,000 years ago, long before the Asian
I
came
got
here.
on Wikipedia 11,000 BC.
11,000?
11,000 BC in that county. Crosby County.
This ain't no joke.
Wow.
You've been here.
In the place.
You've been doing things. Great things. And all mounds demanded science and mathematical knowledge. You had to have that. You had to have that thousands of years before you even decided to build a pyramid.
Yeah.
This is our history. You talk about Moors, the Paleo-Americans were Moors. So that's why I say to you, when I'm talking about Moors, I can't just talk about 710 AD. I gotta take you back 16,000 years. For you to understand how deep our history is in the world arena. When I did this presentation once before, I was told that instead of listing the countries that had pyramids, I should list the states that did not have pyramids. Here's the Mississippi Valley. Moors are all up and down. Did you hear of that horrible tornado? Where did it happen last week? In Oklahoma? But where in Oklahoma? What was it called? Moore. You know black folk in there. Okay? All along the 10 states, starting in Minnesota, where the Mississippi River starts. where the Mississippi starts in Minnesota, you could jump over the river. That's how thin the river is up there. Until it fans out into the delta that you see here. But this is the Mississippi. This is the heartland. The Mississippi River is to the indigenous Africans what the Nile or the Hopi River was to Africans. It was the lifeline. There is a workshop piece that I do. There is a lesson plan series that I do. That I deal with there's a book called Native Roots, how the Indians enriched America. Chapter 2 is called Pyramids on the Mississippi. And it is in this, you see how I have the geography. See, this is how I create my lesson plans. Geography, history, the politics, economics, the social. I then go down into the physical sciences, the geology of it, the spiritual sciences. In school they call it communication arts. But to Africans it was called spiritual sciences. This one is called Native Roots. Native Roots by Jack Weatherford. Chapter 2. And really what we're talking about is Cahokia, the Cahokia Mountain that's located in the Y of the Mississippi River. And by that I mean this. This is just the history of the Mississippi River. See, all this area, see, this is what we need to look at and to study as it relates to the history, because I want to show you something. Here in Illinois, when the river comes up, it travels up into Illinois, and what it does is that it branches off. And in the southernmost part of Illinois, in fact, I'm going to show you a better map. No, see right here, in this part, right here, I don't know if everybody can see where I'm pointing. Oh, please. Please, please. Oh, thank you. I need your help.
I'm sorry. I was like, hey, I'm pleased with that.
There you go, Queen.
Come on, baby.
Not necessarily, but what I'm going to do now that this is where the Mississippi River splits, and the Mississippi River continues this way while the Ohio River splits that way and the Tennessee River comes down. Right here, in this area is called Cahokia. It's where the mounds are located. There is evidence of every indigenous people in Cahokia. You can get to every place in this, on this continent there. using the Nile River. I'm sorry, using the Mississippi River. You can get to every part. You can get to every part of the western part of the United States, eastern part of the United States, through the tributaries, the streams, and everything else. You can get to parts of Mexico, Central South America. You can go straight down into the tributaries, using the Amazon River and everything else. There is evidence of every language group in Cahokia. There's evidence of every type of artifact that existed in this continent. In other words, what I'm saying is Cahokia was like the ancient Washington, D.C. It was the capital of the indigenous world. And the reason why we don't understand American history is because we study American history through European eyes. We start with the 13 colonies, and then we do that Westward Ho thing. To truly understand indigenous history, you have to study the Mississippi River. But to understand the Mississippi River, you would have to be able to go back and understand the Africans that came in, not only the Paleo-Americans, but Olmec, what we talked about in the park today. The Olmec are going to come around into what we call the Gulf of Mexico. And they're going to find themselves right in the Gulf of Mexico. They're going to attach them to three major cities in Mexico today. It's called San Lorenzo, La Venta, and Tres Zapotes. There are three major cities where you're going to find evidence of Africans there. The heads are there, the pyramids are there, all in this area that we call La Venta. 1984, I studied with Dr. Van Sertima in Mexico. He brought us there to see this. I saw 14 stone heads. In fact, there was one stone head that everybody said, yo, brother, you got to come over to Texas because your brother's up in here. And so when I went there was a head that was smiling and it had a gap in the teeth. I'm trying to be funny. But it had a gap, right? So you know they had precision tools. So when they tell you the reason why that the nose is so flat and the lips are so thick is because they had primitive tools. And yet they have the same precise carvings with tools that would have to have been as precise.
Cornrows in the back of that. Cornrows in the back of the.
Exactly, the head that Dr. Van Sertima spoke about. We saw the head, he showed it to us, but we couldn't use it because it was coming out in his newest book, The African Presence in Early America. There was one head that had 7 braids, Ethiopian braids on the side. No place, no Native American has those braids. Straight Ethiopian, right on the side. We saw this. This is African American history. We were here in the beginning. Not only is this American history, this is American history. Not just African American history, this is American history. And to understand this and to be able to look at the Moors, you also have to understand, and I think, brother, please tell me your name again.
Cleveland.
Say again, brother.
Cleveland Harris.
Cleveland Harris. Brother Harris was talking about Timbuktu today at the park. He was talking about West Africa and about the movement of West African and about the ships that came to America, where they had hundreds of ships came and only one went back. Abu Bakr III, Mansa Musa's brother, is said to have come to this part of the world. There is a book, it's called the Haklut, H-A-K-L-U-Y-T. H-A-K-L-U-Y-T. Is named after the author, Richard Haklut. And he writes in this book, this was written like in the 1500s, he was writing that they were passing Africans returning to Africa on their way to America. But when it comes time to write the history book, they don't put that in. Richard Haklut. Don't believe me. Check him out. Christopher Columbus said the same thing. In fact, one of the ships was owned by 2 brothers that were known as the Pinzon brothers. These were black people. Prince Henry the Navigator was a Moor. The people that taught Cristobal Colon were black people. We can track Cristobal Colon on the west coast of Africa in 1482. He's involved in the west coast Africans in 1482 who were coming here. That's how he knew how to come here.
He's over there learning.
They told him there's land to the west, but he needed to get money to get here. Portugal didn't have money, so he talked Queen Isabella into giving him money to come to America. He knew where he was coming. He knew that West India, that's a farce story. He knew. How's my time?
We are looking at
10 minutes.
15?
20 minutes.
Oh, 10:30. Yeah. Okay, let me know when it's time to round this up.
Put up 5 or 10 more minutes, take some questions.
Okay.
Work go hard, it's almost 11 on a Saturday.
You heard, man.
Why y'all over here?
Cristobal Colon was a very greedy man. And what they never tell you about Cristobal Colon is that it took 4 voyages before the Spanish crown realized what he was doing.
That's right.
They sent a boat out for him. They arrested him, put him in a hull of a ship, brought him back to Spain, tried him for treason, found guilty. He was put in jail. He would have stayed there had his son Diego Colon not come and bailed him out. But they told him, you got to get this character out of here. We don't want him. He's a traitor. He's a liar. He's a cheat. You get him out of here. You give us all that he's got, and then I'll let you take him out. His son agreed. He went. He left, and he was exiled to another part of the world where he died. And he was buried. You know where Christopher Columbus is buried?
Wait.
The Dominican Republic.
What?
Whoa. Don't believe me. His family's trying to get him back, because see, now he's looked upon as a hero. Do you know the name synonymous with Cristobal Colon during the early part of the 20th century? The only other name that was close to his name was a man by the name of Benedict Arnold. Cristobal Colon has been known as a traitor for centuries. They never had any regard or respect for him. And so what they did is they decided to pay back the Italian community for their involvement in bringing fascism and Benito Mussolini down. They sent Italians in, mafia in particular, into Italy to bring down Benito Mussolini and to turn over the fascist system. And in gratitude for the Italian community's participation in the bringing down of fascism in World War II, they changed his name from Cristobal Colon to Cristoforo Colombo, anglicized it to Christopher Columbus, and they had the first Columbus Day parade in October of 1944.
Wow.
That either happened or it didn't. Now I know a lot of folks don't particularly care, and the black hand is looking for me. Well, I got 2 black hands, so I ain't worried about it. But that's history. He's a very greedy man. A liar. He wanted to create a kingdom of his own in the East, in the West. That's really what he was attempting to do. And he was hoping to be able to garner up enough support and enough money to make himself independent in this part of the world. And the Spanish crown found out. And that's his story. No, they don't tell that. They don't even tell you what his name is. Okay, now, my sister, Danya and Donna and family are creating a Shabaka study program.
While she's doing that, when brother wraps up, We're gonna take a couple of minutes, y'all, to give you an opportunity to support the store, buy DVDs, that sort of thing, and then we'll come back for a brief question and answer period. Is that okay? We're gonna take a black economic intermission. You know what I'm saying? And then we'll come back for question and answer. Okay? All right.
Shabaka. Shabaka was a pharaoh of the 25th dynasty. She's creating a Shabaka history book. I have an entire series of Shabaka DVDs. Probably the Shabaka stone is probably the one thing I've done the most extensive research on in all of my collective studies. And I believe that it's probably the single most important document that we could have. It is an African story. It's a rewritten version of a much older text, as described here, that was called the Memphite Theology. And it told the story of how our ancestors viewed the coming into being of the cosmos. It's our Big Bang Theory. And there are things in the Shabaka stone today that science still has not caught up with. There are still things to be unfolded because they can't get it. And the reason why they can't get it is because they cannot view sacred science. I've been doing research on the pyramid text for the past 8 years. The challenge that the author tells us as I read the book is that the science community, he's going to European, the science community cannot fathom what's being told in the pyramid text because they cannot deal with the spirituality of the text. The spiritual leaders of the text deciphering it cannot deal with the text because they cannot deal with the science of the text. African people are spiritual scientists.
Okay.
You see, there's a difference. They cannot fathom this. They cannot deal with this. But the pyramid text is, for me, is the story of the resurrection and the light. And I don't do lectures on it because I'm still doing a lot of research on this. And one of the things about the way that I work is that I do not come out with something unless I know it well. Shabaka stone, I'm at the point now, I'm very familiar with this. But with the pyramid text, it's just a phenomenal piece of writing that I just need time to reflect on. And I am not ready to come before you and even attempt to talk. That's where I'm coming, and I've been on it for 8 years. And I'm still confounded by the genius of our ancestors. The pyramid text is a text that, just check it out. But when you read it, don't think you know it. Oh my goodness, and it's on the walls. And our ancestors wrote in a way, just check this out. There is a temple, it's called the Ipet. There is a temple where when our ancestors wrote this temple, they wrote it with the intention of displaying the way the brain functions. And so on the left side of the brain, I'm sorry, on the left wall, they have the part of the story that deals with more of the analytical framework. On the right side of the wall, they have more of the analogical. But to understand it, you've got to bring both those stones together and merge them into one. And so what they were trying to say is that to understand the highest form of wisdom and knowledge, it's like trying to merge two stones together. Because that's what you got to get your brain to start to think like. We are not right-brained and left-brained. We are whole-brained.
Wow.
We have to start to think whole-brained. Let me give you just an example. I always do a class on primary sources so people understand what you're dealing with when you're dealing with the Shabaka stone. Because when I walk in with the Shabaka stone, everybody else got to go. Because Copernicus, Galileo, all of them are secondary sources. So to deal with me, those who would wish to challenge me must bring a primary source in. They have no primary sources, and I know it before I walk in the room. That's why I laid a Shabaka stone out. And I will not continue the conversation until they hand me their primary source. Which means they got to forfeit the conversation because I know they don't have a primary source. I just did it just to show people you ain't got none. I didn't really think we were going to have a conversation. Here is the Shabaka stone. Here's me and my. I'm getting good at it. Yeah, just to show folks. Wait, I got a couple more things I drop on the Shabaka. But this is Shabaka stone. It is basically 3.4 feet by 4.8 feet in length. About 1.13 yards by 1.6 yards. The first two lines are horizontal, all 64 are vertical. And just to show you how our ancestors worked, just to give you a sense of this, these two top lines, when you read Meduneta, you read in the direction of the faces. Now, think about this. When we read left to right. Stop, left to right. There is a constant stopping in our thinking process. Even if it's minute, it's still, you have to depend on what you read last to remember where to pick up. Psychologically, that's how the neurons work. The way our ancestors wrote this, when they write horizontally, you always read in the direction of the faces, but they never write two lines horizontally where the faces are facing in the same direction. So in other words, what I'm saying is that in this top one, let's say the eagle and the bird and everybody facing this way, you would read in that direction, towards the face. In the other way, the faces are facing this way, so you would read this way. So think reading like this, where there is no interruption in your reading. You see? Think about where your head is. When it's just, it's like how we walk, it's how we do, it's how we eat. You know, it do what it do. You know, it's jazz. You see, it's improvisation in jazz, it's rap. Okay? It's just dropping. Okay? It's like we say that's bad. Okay? Then we say that's bad. And then we say that's bad. Bad is better than bad, which is better than that's bad. I be going to the movies. I be going to the movies. Yo, I be going to the movies. All of you in here know what I meant as it relates to how many times I go to the movies. I be going to the movies when I go to the movies. I be going to the movies means I go frequently. I be going to the movies means I'm going right after I talk to you. It's how we do what we do, and that's how our ancestors did it. This is where we get it from. This is our flavor. This is how it goes. You see? And this is how they will attempt to stop us from being that. However, the Shabaka history program is a program that, here we go, gone. Hey, I'm proud of myself. And then this is the discussion of what the Shabaka stone is. Again, I have DVDs over there. I say this in support of Sister Danya so that you will know that when she speaks to you of the Shabaka history, this is what, and I'm interested, if it should happen, to return back to the community and to take us through staff development in the Shabaka stone as it relates to cosmology. Because once you know what's above, then you can figure out what's below, and then you'll have no problem considering what's within. As above, so below, always within. And so this is one of the things as I wrap this up. The First Americans is a book you need to consider. The First Americans were Africans. David Imhotep. Okay? It's here in the doc. Pyramids in America. The African origin of civilization.
Yes.
They came before Columbus. These are books should be in your library. It's books that before your children are even born, they should be born looking at this when they're in the crib. Kush, the jewel of America, of Nubia. And then, of course, my good brother, Jose Pimento Bay, Othello's Children. Very good book on the Moors in America. And you need to bring that brother down and talk to him.
Yeah.
If he's not already been. He's a good brother, good heart, dynamite brother, brilliant mind. We have so many brilliant minds in our community. I just encourage you to take advantage of the brains that are out here to bring in. And please, brothers and sisters, when you come to these classes, please bring your notebook and your pen. Please bring something that gets serious about this. Let's get serious about getting serious. And that second serious is SIRIUS. Because I'm going to talk to you about the Dogon and the Moors and melanin.
Yeah.
So this is just the beginning of many, many, many more.